Hello everyone. Welcome to this Alchemistics video. Today we actually are going to be talking about humbleness and the possibility of being too humble. That's something, right? Like, is it possible to be too humble? Yes. Yes, it is. Some people would probably say no, including myself at one point in time. At one point in time, you could ask me, hey, Bettina, you know, is it possible that you're too humble? And I would have said, no, no. But it is possible. It is possible to be too humble. You can actually block yourself and block your blessings, block your own greatness from being too humble. It's that simple. Everyone should have a certain level of humbleness, okay? Everyone should have a certain level of humbleness because, of course, that humbleness is going to be what helps to balance out the ego, right? Okay. But as we all know, this world is built on duality. So, with that, everything needs balance. So, if you have your ego, or rather, if you have humbleness to balance out that ego, then you have your ego on the other end to balance out your humbleness. Why? Because both are actually needed. Now, of course, in this world, they'll tell you that you need to get rid of your ego. The thing is, though, no one is going to get rid of the ego. You were born with this ego on this material plane. So that means you were born with it for a reason, right? Just like you were born with an inner masculine and inner feminine. Just like you were born with an inner light and an inner dark. That humbleness and ego are opposite sides of the same coin that, like everything else in your life, require balance, which is why both are necessary. And which is why, yes, you can be too humble. And just like being egotistical and being extra ornery and things like that can block your blessings, guess what? So can being too humble. Okay? Like I said, I used to be a believer in all things that had to do with being humble. I would receive accolades, and and for those of you who know me, I'm an Aries, so I love receiving accolades, right? But I would receive them, but something in me would always be there to try to downplay my own greatness and things that I know that I'm capable of doing at a like really well. Okay? I would always try to downplay things like, oh no, it wasn't that much work, or oh no, it wasn't that bad. But now, knowing what I know, I can look back and see that there are times that I most likely shot my own self in the foot by being too humble. Because see, you never know. You never know who's watching. You never know. So when you are downplaying yourself in the eyes of others, that's not a great quality. That's not a great quality. Of course, like I said, you don't want your ego to take over. You don't. And make it seem like you are the end all be all. But you also don't want to downplay your own greatness. And if you remain humble, like too humble all the time, not only are you downplaying, but you are preventing yourself from stepping into your own greatness. How can you step into greatness if you can never see or truly acknowledge how great you really are. If you know that you've lived a hard life and it's taken you a lot to get to the level that you find yourself in right now, no matter if it's where you want to be at in life or not, you know how much work that it took for you to get here. If you're too humble, you'll never take the time to acknowledge all that you have done and all that you have accomplished. And that can prevent you from moving forward into your own greatness. When I just recently actually, um, I've done a number of projects on a number of different things. For those people who know me, you know I'm an extremely multi-talented person. So, I have skill sets, a wide range of skill sets. And one of my most recent projects, I can say now, yes, I did an outstanding job. And I will say that. I did an outstanding job. Like I outdid even my own expectations. And I'm proud of myself. But at the time, you know, while I'm accepting all the praises and blushing to myself, I was still though like, no, no, stop it, like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry. And I was doing that, and even knowing that I went outside of my scope of work, okay? Even knowing that I put in a ton of hours, a ton of hours that I would never be compensated for because this stuff was outside of the scope of work. But I did it anyway. And the humble part of me was like, no, it was okay. It was done. That's all I wanted. I wanted it to be done to the best of my ability, even knowing things were outside of the scope of work. The humble part of me wasn't accepting all of these praises, these words of praise, and a lot of things that I should have. When I realized, I really should be open to accepting more. And that's actually where being too humble leads you. And for those who don't understand where I'm going with this, trust me, I'm about to explain so you'll get it. There seems to be a correlation between, in my mind, being too humble and ending up being a person who gives too much. Okay? This world, everybody I'm fairly sure is familiar with the universal laws. If you are a watcher of this channel, you are not familiar with the universal laws, it's okay. We can definitely get to that so that way everyone is up to date, and everyone is on the same page. One of the universal laws is, of course, the law of reciprocity. Okay? You give, you take. You give, you take. And it goes like this, right? But a lot of times for people who are too humble, okay, they end up being givers. And so they give, and they give, and they give some more. But they rarely ever take. That's a problem, right? It is. That's a problem. Because according to the law, one of the laws of the universe, You shouldn't be just a giver. You shouldn't be just a taker. You're supposed to be both. In order to be both, you have to be open to both. So, yes, you should be giving, but you need to be open to taking. And a lot of us are not open to taking. It seems to be that a lot of people, there are extremes, basically. So you have these people on either side of the extreme. So you have people who give all the time and rarely ever take, or you have people who take all the time and rarely ever give. But again, in this world of duality, in this world of balance, both are needed. So this is why you need to allow your ego to balance out your humbleness. Because your ego, once your ego steps in, your ego is going to tell you that it is okay to take. It is. And you have to stop feeling bad or feeling guilty about taking. Because sometimes it is absolutely necessary. And just because you do take from time to time, that doesn't make you a bad person. We live in a world of reciprocity. You're supposed to be able to give and to take. But so many of us, we're so programmed based on how we were raised to do one or the other, that we're not allowing the natural balance to be what it is supposed to be. For those of you who are too humble, most likely you grew up in environments where you didn't receive much praise, or even good things you did were downplayed as if they weren't that important, or where you were always working to please some adult figure in your life. And so that put you in a position now where not only are you too much of a giver, but you also are overly humble. I need you guys, for those of you who do exhibit that quality of being over humble, I need you guys to really take time with yourself and understand what your environment, especially growing up, do some shadow work. Understand how your environment that conditioned you to be this way is stopping you from stepping into your own greatness. For most people to step into their greatness, they have to claim it. They have to take it and claim it. If you're scared or feel too guilty about just accepting gifts or words of praise, you're never going to be to a point where you're able to stand in yourself to claim your own greatness. And it's time for you to stand up and do so. If you have to, start small. Okay? Start small. When you find people giving you compliments, whereas you would generally say something like, oh, I'm just a reflection of you, or, something sweet, whatever. Instead, just simply say thank you. That's it. Start small. Use simple things like just saying thank you. Work on accepting how great you truly are. Outside of just saying thank you when you receive things, start saying some daily mantras, some daily affirmations, you know, things that help to build up your own sense of self-worth. Because see, being too humble a number of times too can be affected by our own self-worth. All right. And you need to see and realize how great you are. So start doing that. Start saying affirmations and daily mantras to yourself about your own greatness. Write out information about you being in balance. Being in balance with your humbleness and your ego. Being in balance with your giving and your taking. Start to really pay attention to these things, especially giving and taking. Start to really, really pay attention to that. Start to really pay attention to how many times, how many opportunities there are for you to take, to claim things. And when I say take, I'm not talking about like taking candy out of a child's hand. You know, sometimes there are things offered to us. Things are being given to us. And instead of taking it, we just shy it off. Especially for those people who are afraid to ask for help or afraid to accept help when it's offered to you. Even with that, you have to start paying attention to that. Start really taking note of how often you really are. To me, it's a loud goodness, but how often you really are open to taking when it's offered to you. I imagine if you took a full 30 days and truly kept kept a tally of how much you gave versus how much you took, it's going to be fairly uneven because you're a giver. But you need to balance that. So if you do take a 30 days and keep tally, what you could say is, well, you know what? Okay, write out a list of all the times, because sometimes too we might not even realize the opportunity to take, but we don't realize it because we are not looking to take, we're only looking to give. But if you start to pay attention to it, start to keep a record of it, you're going to start to notice more and more times that you actually had an opportunity to take something that would have been beneficial to you. And the more you keep a record of it, you can go back and say, oh yeah, that was an opportunity that I could have took that. And then if it presents itself again, now you know that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this can be beneficial for me. And then the next thing, and then more things will present themselves to you. And of course, while you're doing this, you're going to keep giving because you're a giver. That's what you do, right? But since you're already naturally giving and giving and giving and giving, now you need to start being more aware and more cognizant of the times that you need to be taking and taking and taking and taking. Because the more that you can do that to balance out your giving, the more things come into balance, the more that you can be open to receive. And the more then you can do what you need to do to step into your own power and step into your own greatness. And if you don't believe it, try it. Like I said, 30 days. Just keep a tab. You can get a little notebook on one side. You can put all, jot out all your little giving, and then on the other side, opportunities for you to start taking. I guarantee you that the first week you may not really see anything. You might because you're not really paying attention. But As the month goes on, I can guarantee you by the end of the month, you're going to start noticing more and more opportunities for you. It's one of those things that take time. It's that muscle that you have to build to noticing these opportunities, just like with your intuition. Once you start to rely on and use your intuition, it comes up more. But same thing goes for these opportunities for you to take. And once you get that balance of that giving and that taking, then you can start to be ready to prepare yourself to step into who you are meant to be. But it's all about that balance. You gotta find it. You gotta find it. You can't just remain too humble. If you always try to remain too humble, all you're going to do is continue to sit in the shadows, wishing to be the person that you know you're meant to be. But it's time for you to come out of the shadows. I will talk to you guys next time. And of course, you know where I am if you need me.